The first light of morning crept tenderly through the thin white curtains, laying a veil of gold across Dee's face. She stood silently by the window, watching the mist roll lazily over the distant hills. Outside, the countryside stirred awake. Roosters crowed in scattered rhythm, leaves whispered in the breeze, and the smell of freshly cut grass filled the air. It was a picture of peace. Yet inside her, emotions churned like a restless storm. Diep had never imagined she would one day become the co-founder of a company, not as someone's assistant, not the quiet helper behind a desk, but as the boss. And beside her, not as a mentor or superior, but as an equal, stood James, the man she respected, admired, and loved with her whole being. Their new company, Diep and James, had been officially registered just days before. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a modest achievement, a small step in a vast world. But to them, it was resurrection, the rebirth of hope after everything they had lost. James had once fallen hard. Betrayed by partners, abandoned by investors, and nearly crushed by his own family's greed, he had learned how cruel ambition could be. Yet, when the world turned its back, Diep had stayed. It was in her eyes, unwavering, gentle, full of belief, that he rediscovered his strength to begin again. And now, together, they would share both the burden and the dream. That morning, James's car rolled up the dusty country road leading to their small wooden house. His shirt was still creased from travel, his car covered in a fine coat of dust, but his eyes gleamed with a quiet, contagious fire. Stepping out, he carried a small box, a grin spreading across his face. "It's official," he announced, his voice trembling with excitement. "DJ is registered. We're in business." For a moment, Diep froze. The words hung in the air, sinking in. Then a smile spread across her face, bright and pure like the morning sunlight flooding their little home. "We really did it, James," she whispered, her voice catching. "After everything, we finally did it." James stepped closer, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. "We did it together," he said softly. "And this time, no one can take it away from us." They stood there quietly, surrounded by the hum of life, a child's laughter echoing down the lane, the squeak of a bicycle wheel, the cheerful chirp of sparrows. The world outside carried on as usual, unaware that in that tiny house, two people were beginning again, defying failure with faith. Diep turned to the horizon, her heart both steady and tender. Failure or rich, she thought. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we have each other, and the courage to try again. Later that morning, they sat by the window, sharing a cup of warm tea. Their reflections met in the glass, two figures, one dream. They didn't need grand speeches or promises. The silence between them already said everything. Whatever the future held, they would face it side by side. The first week of DJ Company was a trial by fire. Their new office, a freshly painted room near the old marketplace, smelled of sawdust and determination. It had 3 desks, 2 computers, and a dream far too large for its walls. Each morning, Diep sat by the window, surrounded by stacks of papers like a general surrounded by her troops. She was new to business, but her resolve was firm. She taught herself how to contact local farmers, negotiate supply contracts, and write proposals that exuded confidence, even when her hands trembled over the keyboard. Meanwhile, James was always on the move, visiting partners, rebuilding broken trust. Many doors closed on him, some with polite excuses, others with cold rejection. But each evening, when he returned and saw Diep still at her desk, hair tied back, eyes weary but shining, he felt the old fire burn bright again. "Did you eat anything today?" he asked one night, leaning against the doorframe. Diep looked up, startled. "Not yet. I was just finishing this report." James chuckled, placing a warm box of rice on her desk. "You can't run a company on an empty stomach, Boss Diep," she laughed softly. "You sound more like my mother than my business partner." "Maybe," he said with a grin. "But I can't let the CEO faint before our first investor meeting." They ate together under the soft glow of the office lamp, the hum of the village outside fading into quiet. Their world was small, a cramped room, takeout meals, sleepless nights, but within those walls, something far greater was being built. The next morning brought their first call. A local farmer, Mr. Fan, wanted to partner with them to sell organic oranges. Diep's voice trembled slightly as she answered, "Yes, Mr. Fan. We'd be honored to work with you." When she hung up, she turned to James, eyes wide. "Our first client." For a moment, James just stood there, stunned. Then a smile broke across his face. "You did it, Diep." "We did it," she corrected, laughing. They high-fived like children who had discovered a secret world of possibility. Later that afternoon, James drove Diep to meet the farmers. The sun blazed over the fields, and the soil was warm beneath their feet. As Diep bent down to touch the young orange saplings, she could already imagine the fruit gleaming under the sunlight, each one a small promise of a brighter tomorrow. Standing behind her, James said quietly, "You were born for this." She turned and smiled. "No, James. We were born for this." The wind carried the scent of fresh earth and something else, the beginning of hope. Their joy didn't last long. Days later, a supplier called. His tone was cautious but firm. The fertilizer contract was cancelled. Due to unstable financial background, James froze. He knew exactly what that meant. John, their rival, the man who had once destroyed James's old company, was spreading rumors again. Lies that DJ company was built on debt and desperation. When Diep overheard, her pen slipped from her hand. For a long moment she stood still, then walked to the window. The morning light fell over her pale face. So this is how it begins, she murmured. James clenched his fists. I thought a fresh start would mean people giving us a chance. But John, he's everywhere. Diep turned, her gaze calm and unshaken. We knew it wouldn't be easy, James. Success doesn't come wrapped in ribbons. She paused. Let's show them who we are, not who they say we are. That day, they worked harder than ever. Diep called every farmer she knew, every small shop owner, reassuring, explaining, persuading. James drove through the rain, shaking hands, making promises he intended to keep. But the skies grew darker. Roads flooded, deliveries stalled, and one night, the roof began to leak. Water dripped down onto papers and computers, short-circuiting their fragile progress. Diep sat on the floor, holding soaked documents, tears quietly falling. When James found her, he didn't speak, just sat beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. It's okay, he murmured. We'll print them again. It's not the papers, she whispered. It's everything. What if we're not meant to make it? He took her hands. You are the reason this company exists. You make me believe we can start again, every single day. The next morning, despite the rain, they stood outside with buckets, collecting the leaking water, laughing through exhaustion. Look at us, Diep said between giggles. Two CEOs fighting a storm with buckets. Maybe that's what leadership really means, James replied, grinning. Holding buckets when no one else will. A new dawn. That afternoon, the phone rang again. A local supermarket chain had seen Diep's proposal online. They wanted to test DJ's products. A small order, but a chance. The weeks that followed felt like the quiet sunrise after a long storm. The supermarket was pleased with their produce, clean, organic, fresh. A second, larger order came soon after. Diep's name began appearing in local papers. Young woman turns farmland into future. The story behind DJ Company. Every morning, she still watered the small garden behind their office. Plants don't grow faster just because you rush them, she said once, smiling at James. They need patience. Just like dreams. James watched her with quiet admiration. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, Diep chose the long road, steady, honest, and kind. One evening, while reviewing partnership papers, James noticed something odd, a small clause, almost invisible, that shifted control of their distribution rights. And at the bottom, hidden under a shell company, was a name he dreaded. John. He felt his blood run cold. "He's back," he muttered. He called Diep immediately. Minutes later, she rushed in, hair damp from the rain, eyes sharp with concern. They read through the document in silence. "So he's still watching," she said quietly. "Waiting for us to fall." "Not this time," James said. For days, they worked tirelessly, checking contracts, calling suppliers, confronting the supermarket executives in person. Exhaustion clung to them, but they refused to yield. Diep's mother called once, worried. "You sound tired, my dear. Don't forget to eat." "I will, Mama," Diep answered softly. "We're just making sure our dream doesn't fall apart." By week's end, their perseverance paid off. The truth came out. John's fake company had been caught manipulating documents. The supermarket cut ties with him and reaffirmed DJ Company as their trusted partner. When James told Diep, she didn't cry or cheer. She simply leaned back in her chair and whispered, "Thank God." "You saved us again," James said, awe in his voice. "No," she smiled faintly. "We saved each other." That night, under a half-moon sky, they sat outside with cups of tea, listening to the soft hum of crickets. "Diep," James said, his tone gentle. "Whether we fail or succeed, I think I've already found what I was looking for." She turned to him, curious. "What's that?" He smiled, tired, but full of warmth. "Someone who never runs away when things get hard." Her eyes softened. "Then maybe that's the real meaning of success." Their story was never about money or status. It was about rebuilding, learning to fall, and rise again, without losing themselves in the process. When everything crumbled, it wasn't wealth or reputation that saved them. It was faith, faith in each other, in their shared dream, and in the quiet belief that honesty always finds a way to bloom. Diep proved that a woman from humble beginnings could lead not because she was destined to win, but because she refused to stop trying. James learned that true strength isn't control or pride, it's patience, kindness, and the quiet courage to keep standing beside someone, even when you're both breaking inside. Their sleepless nights, their tears, their laughter, all became part of a greater truth. Success means nothing if it costs you the people who believed in you when you had nothing. Their love evolved into something deeper, not a romance defined by passion alone, but a partnership rooted in faith. No matter how harsh the world became, they promised to keep believing in simple things: a shared meal, a warm smile, the comfort of knowing someone is waiting for you at home. In the end, true success isn't measured in wealth or fame. It's measured by the hearts you keep, and the love that keeps you standing.